Incidentally, as I said, today is Ekadashi. It is also very well known fact that Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the day of Ekadashi. So any new endeavors are very auspicious to start on the day of Ekadashi, actually, any spiritual endeavors, especially. Ekadashi is considered to be the day that we should really try hard to observe. We should pay attention to this day. And it's not a very austere fasting involved. So, but anything we can do for Krishna separate from our bodily engagements, that gets a lot of credit. So any spiritual endeavors separate from body give us a lot of spiritual credits on this day. So this is like a considered a Black Friday sale where you get for one name that you chant extra, you get much more benefits than you would on an ordinary day. So any spiritual credit gets magnified, gets amplified results on this day of Ekadashi compared to an ordinary day. So today we are starting Bhagavad Gita, very auspicious day. Let's get started. This is a lot of reading today. I'm not going to discuss much. Maybe I'll just pause here and there on a paragraph to just bring your attention to certain lines. But we'll just keep reading. So let's read these two prayers and then please keep taking turns to read these paragraphs. But let's read these prayers first of all. We can recite them together. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा
कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्.
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rup Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? So many of you often ask, where are these Mangalacharan prayers that we often recite? Mangalacharan means something that invokes auspiciousness. So these are the prayers that are given in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. There are more, we'll read them. But as you know, the first prayer says that I was born in the darkest ignorance and my spiritual master opened my eyes, Chakshur, with the torch of knowledge. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. To that spiritual master, I pay my respectful obeisances. Then this second prayer is the Pranam Mantra for Srila Rup Goswami. So as you know, Srila Rup Goswami is the Acharya for our Sampradaya, for our tradition, for the tradition that we are following, Gaudiya Sampradaya. He is the Acharya of that Sampradaya. So Srila Rup Goswami is the one who has written a lot of Vaishnav literature. He was directly trained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Krishna. So about 500 years back, Srila Rup Goswami was one of the disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have just finished reading his book, Nectar of Instruction, or Updeshamrit. So this Rup Goswami is being respected here. So the prayer is saying, when will that Srila Rup Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? So Chaitanya had a desire. What was his desire? Chaitanya or Krishna had a desire that this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita should spread all over the world. Everyone should know this knowledge and everyone should practice this knowledge. And he spread it in the form of Nam Sankirtan. He wanted all the Bhagavad Gita and other Vaishnav literature to be written in simple language, easy to understand language, in local languages. And all those orders were fulfilled by his disciples. So this Bhagavad Gita that we are getting in this line of our gurus is coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, and Rup Goswami understands the heart or the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we are asking for shelter of that Rup Goswami. Then the further prayers are, Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadkamlam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Satam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. So now we are paying obeisances to everybody else, including not only Radha and Krishna, but their associates, the Ashtasakis, Lalita and Vishakha Adi Sakis, and all the other Goswamis as well, other than Rup Goswami, all the other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. So would someone like to read this translation? And please keep taking quick turns. So please identify the next person as well who wants to read, and we'll keep going. Yes, Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and onto the feet of all Vaishnavas. My respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Dasa and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu
Jagatpate
Gopesh
Gopeshika
Gopika
Kanta
Kanta Radha
Radha
Kanta
Kanta
Namostute
Namostute
Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi
Gaurangi
Virade Vrindavaneshwari
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishbhanu
Krishna
Sute
Sute
Devi
Devi
Pranamami.
Pranamami Hari Priye.
Can someone read these two?
I can read, Mataji. Oh my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distress and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna.
So these are pranam mantras for Krishna and Radharani. So when you pay obeisances in front of the deities in your temple, these are the mantras you're supposed to say when you're kneel down, when you're bowing down, you do Dandvat Pranam. These are the two mantras you should be saying. This is for Krishna and this is for Radharani. And then comes the Vaishnava Pranam mantra. So when you do Pranam to Vaishnavas, this is the mantra that you say. So let's recite the next three. Vancha
Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Okay, please read these two translations.
Yes, I can read.
Yes.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire of trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen. Desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advait Gadadhara, Shri Vasa, and all others in the line of devotion.
So these are the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Panch Tattva. So when we kneel down in front of them, this is the Pranam mantra for Panch Tattva. And of course, if you don't know any other mantras or any other Vedic hymns, you can always say Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is all encompassing mantra. Okay, so now here starts these were all the prayers. Now starts the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. So let's start reading. Who wants to read the first paragraph?
I can read.
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita is also known as Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge and one of the most important Upanishads in Vedic literature. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on the Bhagavad Gita, and one may question the necessity for another one. This present position can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in America, there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita available in English. But as far as I have seen, not only in America, but also in India, none of them can be strictly said to be authoritative, because in almost every one of them, the commentator has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is.
Nagarjun Prabhu, your voice is not very clear. It's not 100% like it should be.
Okay, I can be louder.
So
Bhagavad,
just to highlight couple of points, this is Gita Upanishad. So this is one of the 108 Upanishads. Remember that we have read Sri Upanishad, and Bhagavad Gita is also considered one of the Upanishads, Gita Upanishad. Otherwise, Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharat. It is part of Bhishma Parv of Mahabharat, and it is considered both Shruti and Smriti. So certain things are Smriti in Vedic literature, certain things are Shruti, like Puranas are Smriti, whereas the four Vedas are Shruti. But Bhagavad Gita is considered both Shruti and Smriti. Because Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharat, which is Itihas. Remember, Mahabharat is Itihas. So because it's part of Mahabharat, it is considered Shruti. And since it was spoken directly by, it is part of Smriti, but since it's spoken directly by Krishna, it is also Shruti. So it's both. It's considered
yeah,
both.
so just
That's why
to
it's,
explain, like Shruti is something that is Shruti is that is heard, right? No, Smriti is which is heard, and Shruti is something spoken by the Lord.
yes. So since Vedas are directly spoken by the Lord, they are considered Smriti. They're considered Shruti. And one that is directly that is coming in knowledge from the acharyas like Puranas, they are considered Shruti. So we want both. We want both Shruti and Smriti, which is Bhagavad Gita. That is why Bhagavad Gita is considered the authoritative Vedic literature. It is the essence of all Vedic literature. It is the conclusion, the summum bonum of all Vedic literatures. But Prabhupada is saying, why did I come up with another commentary on Bhagavad Gita? Because all the Bhagavad Gitas that were available so far, none of them seem to be very authoritative because they are not touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So we'll understand what that spirit of Bhagavad Gita is. Can someone read the next paragraph?
Should I read again?
Mataji, I can read.
Yes, let's Prabhuji read. Your voice is not very clear now.
The spirit
Yes.
of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this. If we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own whim or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the labels or the directions given by a physician. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is directed by the speaker himself. The speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Lord Sri Krishna. He is mentioned on every page of Bhagavad Gita as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Of course, the word Bhagavan sometimes refers to an powerful person or any powerful demigod, and certainly not Bhagavan designates Lord Sri Krishna as a great personality. But at the same time, we should know that Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as is confirmed by all great acharyas, spiritual masters like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. The Lord Himself also establishes Himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita, and He is accepted as such in the Brahma Samhita and all the Puranas, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, known as Bhagavad Purana, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, we should take Bhagavad Gita as it is directed by the personality of Godhead Himself. In the fourth chapter of Gita 4.1.3, the Lord says, Mataji, you want me to read this?
No, Prabhu, we can skip this. We'll just read the translation because we will read these verses in the Gita itself. So just to make a couple of points here, Prabhupada is saying that the spirit of Bhagavad Gita is basically to understand the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita as it was meant by Krishna. So the way Krishna wanted us to receive it, and not in any distorted or misconstrued way. So sometimes people use this philosophy or this wisdom for their own personal agendas or personal aggrandizement, and they take Krishna out of the picture. They may take the philosophy, they may take the wisdom, but they don't pay much emphasis to Krishna. But actually, in this case, even though the message of Krishna is important, but Krishna, the messenger, is also very important, is actually more important than the message. Why? Because it shouldn't be thought that Krishna is just another great personality, some Mahapurush, some historical figure, some politician or king of that time who spoke this great wisdom because he was a very wise man. It's not like that, because that makes him a very ordinary person. The reason the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is important is because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the divine, transcendental Supreme Person Sri Krishna. So that makes this message transcendental. That makes this knowledge aparushya, meaning it's not spoken by any ordinary person, because ordinary person can have defect in them. But Bhagwan, the supreme absolute truth, is free of any errors. They don't have any defects. So this knowledge has no defects because it is spoken by Krishna. So it is very important to understand the position of Krishna before we start accepting the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So in this, so sometimes message is more important than the messenger. But in this case, actually, the message will become receptive to us. We'll be able to receive this message when we understand the importance of the messenger. Who is speaking this knowledge? The person that is speaking this knowledge is not just some a singer who's singing this geet, जिसने ये गीत गाया है, या a poet. He is the most important person. He is the source of all sources. He's the cause of all causes. He is the source of all Vedic knowledge. He has imparted this knowledge in the heart of Brahmaji at the beginning of this creation. We are all his servants. We are part and parcel of this Supreme Lord. That Supreme Lord is speaking this knowledge, and so we better pay heed to this knowledge, to this wisdom, to his instructions given in this Bhagavad Gita. So that's why this message is important, because it's not just like any other ordinary book spoken by written by a wise man. And so that's why Prabhupada is establishing, first of all, the position of Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada is giving us some verses from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna himself says that I gave this knowledge at the beginning to sun god Vivaswan. I gave this knowledge to sun god, but in due time this knowledge got lost, because that's the nature of this material world. Even though this is transcendental knowledge, in the hands of materialistic people, ordinary people, as their consciousness degenerates over time, as the time degenerates, the yugas degenerate, this knowledge gets lost. So every so often, Krishna comes or his representatives come, and they have to keep re-establishing this knowledge over and over again. In fact, in our own lives, we can see that we are encouraged to read Bhagavad Gita on a daily basis, because the knowledge slips away, the wisdom slips away by the influence of this material world on a daily basis. So daily we are recommended to bathe our consciousness in the words of Bhagavad Gita. Just like we take a bath, or we brush our teeth, or we eat food, that's how we should nourish our soul, our consciousness, with the words of Bhagavad Gita, because this knowledge, by the influence of matter, can deteriorate on a daily basis. So what to speak of yugas, or what to speak of time. Over time this knowledge degenerates. So Krishna says, I come over and over again. So I just wanted to highlight this point, that understand the position of Supreme Lord. Yes, the message is important, the wisdom, the philosophy is important, but this philosophy has to be accepted because this is coming from Supreme Lord. This is not somebody's mental concoction. This is not somebody's personal realizations. This is not just somebody's experience of living many years on this earth. No, this is the knowledge as it is, as intended by the creator of this entire cosmic manifestation. So that's why this knowledge is so important. Let's keep reading. Can someone read the next paragraph?
I can read.
Yes.
Here, the Lord informs Arjun that the system of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita, was first spoken to the sun god, and the sun god explained it to Manu, and Manu explained it to Ishvaku. And in that way, by disciplic succession, one speaker after another, the yoga system has been coming down. But in course of time, it has become lost. Consequently, the Lord has to speak it again, this time to Arjun on the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
You can read it further, Navya.
He tells Arjun that he is relating the supreme secret to him because Arjun is his devotee and his friend. The purport of this is that Bhagavad Gita is a treatise which is especially meant for the devotee of the Lord. There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely the Jnani, the Yogi, and the Bhakta, or the impersonalist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here, the Lord clearly tells Arjun that he is making him the receiver of a new parampara, disciplic succession, because the old succession has been broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others, and it was his wish that his teaching be distributed anew by Arjun. He wanted Arjun to become the authority in understanding the Bhagavad Gita. So we see the Bhagavad Gita is instructed to Arjun, especially because Arjun was a devotee of the Lord, a direct student of Krishna, and his intimate friend. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is best understood by a person who has qualities similar to Arjun's. That is to say, he must be a devotee in a direct relationship with the Lord. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he also has a direct relationship with the Lord. That is a very elaborate subject matter, but briefly it can be stated that the devotee is in relationship with the Supreme Lord of Godhead in 5 different ways.
Okay, let's pause for a second. So first Prabhupada said, who spoke this? This was spoken by Supreme Lord. Okay. Now he's saying that Supreme Lord chose Arjuna to deliver this knowledge in the next and created a next disciplic succession because the original one was broken. So now he's re-establishing this knowledge through Arjun. Why did he choose Arjun? Why not anybody else? Because Arjun is an intimate friend and devotee of the Lord. So Arjun was submissive to Supreme Lord Krishna. He considered Krishna his very intimate friend. He had a very personal relationship with Krishna. So since Krishna is going to open his heart here, he's going to open his heart to a person who is his friend, just like us. If we are going to reveal something about ourselves, if we are going to tell some secrets, some confidential knowledge, we will tell it to a person who is a very dear friend of ours. So because that person will be open to hearing our words. So Arjun, being a friend, being in a relationship with Krishna, is open to this message. So Krishna has chosen Arjun to receive this message of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the qualification. Prabhupada is giving the qualification of someone who wants to understand Bhagavad Gita. That's why it is said that Bhagavad Gita, it's available to everyone. You can go and buy it for $5, $10, 100 rupees, 50 rupees, whatever, in any store, any bookstore or online. And you can read it. But even then, the knowledge may not reveal itself to you. The knowledge may not manifest in your heart. Everything may go over your head. Why? Because you have not tried to establish a relationship with the Lord. So just like Arjun here is related to the Lord in love and friendship, in humility, in surrender, in submission, in the same way, unless the reader of Bhagavad Gita is associated with the Lord in devotional service, in submission, in surrender, trying to establish a relationship, he will not be able to understand Bhagavad Gita. So that is why these words are important, but simultaneously, this is very, very important point. If nothing else you understand from today or from rest of our, 1 year of study, this is the main thing to understand, that when you are reading Bhagavad Gita, simultaneously engage in some kind of devotional service. Unless one is engaged in service to the Lord, this knowledge you can recite all the verses. Someone may know all the 700 verses, but they will not be even able to apply or really take in their heart even one verse. So in order to really manifest this knowledge in your heart, you need to engage in devotional service, which means you're trying to establish relationship with the Lord. As soon as you start re-invoking your relationship, your lost, forgotten relationship with the Supreme Lord, the knowledge will start revealing itself to you. The Bhagavad Gita will start revealing itself to you. That's why Bhagavad Gita is said an open secret. It is an open secret because it is openly available to everyone, but it is still secret because nobody knows this fact that you have to be a devotee of the Lord to really understand this knowledge. So you have to engage in some devotional service. while receiving this knowledge. So one of the ways to understand Bhagavad Gita is not just by learning Sanskrit or by learning the verses, but actually by engaging in
For
devotion.
Nobal, just one hand. Yeah.
Okay, let's read further. Can somebody read this? So Prabhupada is saying one can establish relationship with the Supreme Lord in 5 different ways. So there are 5 possible relationships with the Lord. So since we're talking about establishing relationship with the Lord, let's see more about that. Who can read this? Yes, number 1 said.
One may be a devotee in a passive state. Two,
This is
one may be
Shantras. This is Shantras. Yes.
one may be a devotee in an active state. One may be a devotee as a friend.
This is Sakhya.
One may be a devotee as a parent.
Vatsalya.
One may be devotee as a conjugal lover.
So this is Madhurya Bhav. So the 5 Bhav or Rasas are explained here. 5 relationships that a devotee can exchange. Shantras, Dasya Bhav, Sakhya Bhav, Vatsalya Bhav, and Madhurya or Shringar Bhav.
Arjun was in a relationship with the Lord as friend. Of course, there is a gulf of difference between this friendship and the friendship found in the material world. This is a transcendental friendship, which cannot be held by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is evoked by the perfection of devotional service. But in the present status of life, of our life, not only have we forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. Every living being out of the many, many billions and trillions of living beings has particular relationship with the Lord eternally. That is called Swarupa. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Swarupa, and the state is called Swarup Siddhi, perfection of one's constitutional position. So Arjun was a devotee and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada is emphasizing on establishing a relationship. He's saying that each soul, each jiva, each living entity has a unique individual relationship with the Supreme Lord. It can be in any of these 5 rasas. And there are many other rasas also. These are just the primary rasas, but there are numerous secondary rasas also. So we may have a very unique individual relationship with the Lord, which is called Swarup. And when we achieve that Swarup, that is the perfection of life. So that's called Swarup Siddhi. So we have to achieve that perfection of life by developing that relationship with the Lord. And it will become revealed to us. It will slowly, everything will unravel for us as we engage in the process of devotional service. But Arjun was a devotee. He was in intimate touch with Supreme Lord and friendship. Also, I want to highlight here that Arjun is a devotee of the Lord. That's why he's the best person to receive this knowledge. And remember, Prabhupada, who's a Vaikuntha man himself, he's a devotee of the Lord. He's his whole life, he spent in shelter, complete surrender to the Supreme Lord. And most of you know the life of Prabhupada, how he was living in Vrindavan, how he came to US. He did not have anything with him but just a copy of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. First canto of Bhagavatam that he had written. He had no money, he had no place to live, he did not know how cold it would be here, how people are so indifferent and aloof here. He had no place to stay, nothing, just completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord. He came upon the instruction of his spiritual master to spread this knowledge to the Western world, because his guru had told him that you need to spread this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the Western world, to the English speaking world. So he came here just trying to fulfill that instruction of his guru. And so this Prabhupada, whose life is the embodiment of devotional service, that Prabhupada has given us this Bhagavad Gita as it is. That's why this Bhagavad Gita stands above and beyond any other commentary available in the market, because just like Arjun is so qualified to receive this knowledge, Prabhupada is qualified to transmit this knowledge and transmit the mood of Arjun, transmit the mood of Krishna to us. So what does Krishna want from us? We understand that he has come to give a message to Arjun here. He has come to establish a mission here. There is a purpose in this message. So somebody who knows the heart of Krishna, somebody who has an intimate relationship with Krishna, who is a very advanced devotee of the Lord, who has access to the inner life of the Lord, that person can reveal this message to us. So since Prabhupada has access to the heart of Krishna, he's in the same mood as Arjun. His mood and Arjun's mood are same. He can reveal that mission and purpose of Krishna to us. He can reveal the will of Krishna to us. How does Krishna want us to act in this world? What are the virtues Krishna wants us to imbibe in this life? What is the purpose of life? What is our identity? Everything that Krishna intended as it is. That's why this Bhagavad Gita is called Bhagavad Gita as it is. So we are reading Bhagavad Gita that is commented, that is written by a pure devotee of the Lord, who is engaged in highest, most transcendental devotional service to the Lord. So just wanted to highlight that as well. Let's keep reading. So these verses I can just quickly recite. How Arjun accepted the Bhagavad Gita should be noted. So Prabhupada is now saying we should see how Arjun accepted Bhagavad Gita. His manner of acceptance is given in 10th chapter. Arjuna vacha Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishaya Sarve Devarshirnaradastatha Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bravishi Me Sarvam Etadritam Manne Yanmam Vedasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidur Devana Dhanava. These first two verses are extremely important. This is where the term Supreme Personality of Godhead comes. So Prabhupada did not just concoct this term Supreme Personality of Godhead. This was actually first said by Arjun. Arjun said this in this wonderful wow moment. Arjun had this amazing moment of realization that this friend of mine is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he declared Krishna that you are the Supreme Lord. And this is not just my realization, but actually all the वंडरफुल सेजेस देव ऋषि नारद ने भी मुझे ये बताया है. आसित भी बोलते हैं और व्यास भी बोलते हैं. देवला, आसित, ही इज कोटिंग 4 major acharyas here: Narad Muni, Asit, Devala and Vyas. He's quoting 4 acharyas here. Arjun is giving reference that all these people told me that you are the Supreme Bhagwan, and now today I have understood that you are actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if you pay attention to this verse, Supreme means Param. You are Param Brahma. You are Param Dhama, Supreme Abode, Supreme Brahman. You are a personality, meaning you are a person. You are not just a light, a darkness, an effulgence, nothingness. No, you are not just a void, a space. No, you are a person. You are a transcendental, supreme person. You are Param Purush. So he says Purusham, Shashvatam Divyam, eternal, transcendental person. That's what you are. So you are a personality. Adi Devam, you are Godhead. You are the origin of all the so-called gods. So all these other Devi, Devtas, everything, your origin, you are the basis, the fountainhead of all these gods. So you are the Godhead. So he says you are Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I knew this from other people. They have told me, but I just never realized it. I always just used to think that you're my friend. But actually you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is Arjun's realization that he says in a very awestruck way. He's completely awed by Krishna's words by this point in 10th chapter. Okay, let's read this. Can someone read these next 2 paragraphs?
I can read, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Arjuna said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality." After hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme Living Being or the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Brahman. Param Dhama means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitram means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Shashvatam, eternal. Divyam, transcendental. Adi Devam, the original supreme personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn. And Vibhum, the greatest.
Mataji, can you read one more?
Yeah. Now, one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of Bhagavad Gita, substantiates these praises in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only by himself, but by authorities like Narada, Ashita, Devala, and Vyasadeva. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Sarvam etad Artam Manye. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Lord Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee?
Krishna. So he says, I accept everything you say to be true. That's why I was saying that it's not just some great Mahapurush speaking these words, some great politician or great celebrity or personality, soldier, prince, king. No. Krishna is transcendental. He is the supreme Lord. That's why we have to accept everything that he says. And yet, Krishna does not say that just accept everything I say without any question or argument. Ask your questions. That's why we see in Bhagavad Gita, Arjun keeps asking questions to clarify his doubts. He keeps asking even more, even now, when he has understood everything in 10th chapter. He has understood that Krishna is Supreme Lord, right? You saw his wow moment where he said, oh my God, you are the God, you are the Supreme Lord. I thought you were my friend. Even after this, he should think, okay, I should just accept everything Krishna says as it is without any argument, without any questions. But he still keeps asking questions because that's how Krishna is. He's so merciful. He's not a hard-hearted master. He does not just want to manipulate us like machines. Krishna wants us to have complete faith and love and surrender for him from our own heart. So he will answer every question that you have. So he keeps answering more and more questions for Arjun even until chapter 18, as you will see. And that is encouraged in our sampradaya, that we keep asking questions until all our doubts are clear, until we have complete faith. So yes, we accept Bhagavad Gita as it is, we accept Krishna is Supreme Lord, but we still encourage to ask questions because we have a lot of conditioning, lot of material contamination, lot of lies that have been told to us by the world, lot of misconceptions have been created in our mind about who God is, about how we should live in this world, why we are here, what is the purpose of our life, our identity, everything. Many misconceptions are there. So it will take some discussion, some doubts, some question answers to dispel those doubts, and it's okay to do that. So yes, we accept everything as it is, but we should know that this is the ultimate knowledge. But we should still be clarifying our doubts with our seniors, with our acharyas, with our gurus, and spiritual superiors. Okay, let's keep reading. Can somebody read next two paragraphs?
Yes, I can read.
Yes, please.
Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we should at least theoretically accept Shri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery.
Let me just pick one point here and then you can read. So I was saying that we should ask our questions, clarify our doubts, but this is the spirit in which we should ask those questions, in a submissive spirit, with humility, with surrender. So having the faith that this knowledge is absolute, but due to my present conditioning, due to my present contamination, I am unable to accept it or unable to understand it. So in a submissive, understanding your limitations, not that the knowledge is limited, but I have limitation in understanding because of my past experiences, my past perceptions, and my upbringing, previous faiths, etc. So, in a submissive spirit, not in a challenging spirit. If we ask questions to the gurus, to the teachers in a challenging spirit that prove this to me or prove that to me, it will not be possible to understand Bhagavad Gita. So, you have to read it, you have to hear it, you have to pose your questions in a very a humble way, in a very submissive way, by rendering service to those teachers. You should pose those questions, and then this knowledge will be revealed to you. Please keep reading.
Just what is Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nascence of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways. As Arjuna also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Shri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other, we are put into asat. Asat refers to what does not to which does not exist. Should I?
Let me just highlight 1 or 2 points here. So, Arjun surrendered unto Krishna. So, you will see in Bhagavad Gita that very early on, when Arjun was faced with these anxieties, when he came face to face with certain difficulties in his life, anxiety, he surrendered to Krishna. So in chapter 2, he surrenders to Krishna, and Krishna does not speak anything until then. After that, Krishna starts speaking. So Krishna gives guidance only when we turn towards him in surrender. So when we are looking towards him during our difficulty or in good times, bad times, when we look towards Krishna for guidance, then Krishna gives guidance. So like I was saying before, he's not going to impose his will on us, but he will share his will with us when we ask for his guidance. So we can turn inwards, we can turn towards devotee, towards Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and get that guidance, just like Arjun got from Krishna. And even then, Krishna says at the very end, in chapter 18 to Arjun, he says, I have given you all this knowledge. Now it's up to you whether you apply it or not, whether you follow it or not. So he still leaves it up to Arjun. So Krishna very much respects the free will. Remember, we talked about the concept of free will yesterday. So Krishna very much respects the free will of a jiva. That a jiva is completely independent, not completely as in he has independence to go away from Krishna or turn towards Krishna. And Krishna will allow that to happen. It's not like Krishna is going to force you to turn towards him. If you want to go away from him, Krishna will let you go. If you go towards him, Krishna will run at a faster speed than you can. अगर आप एक कदम लोगे तो कृष्णा 1000 कदम लेंगे. So, but this surrender in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita by Arjun was the whole reason Krishna shared his heart, shared his guidance about what should be the proper conduct for Arjun. And second thing I wanted to highlight was this thing about anxiety or suffering. We discussed about sufferings or adversities yesterday, a whole class we had about that. And Prabhupada is going to talk about it more. But basically, whenever we have suffering, we should understand that this existence in material world is not our natural position. We are not supposed to be here. So Prabhupada says, our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Basically, it means, this is a very difficult line to understand, but it means that this material world is an illusion. This is non-existent, you can say. This is unreal. This is an illusion. This is asat. So Prabhupada says asat means which does not exist. So it's like a dream-like state. So in this dreamlike state, whatever anxieties we face is very artificial for us. We should not be here. It's like a fish out of water. We are out of our element. We are not supposed to be. We are supposed to be in a more natural position, which is spiritual world, because we are spiritual entities. We are incompatible with this material world. So in suffering, we should understand that we are not compatible with this material world, which is designed to give us suffering. And spiritual entities not designed for suffering. Spiritual entity is joyful. They are spiritual. They are full of bliss. Sat, not asat. So their existence in asat is very unnatural, and that causes anxiety. So we should come to this understanding. So Arjun came to this understanding when he felt this unnatural anxiety at the beginning of this war. Why am I being put into this position? This is such a difficult position to be in. So then Krishna reveals this whole knowledge. Let's continue. Can somebody read this paragraph?
Indeed, Mataji.
Yes, ma'am.
Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are few who are actually inquiring about their position, as to what they are, why they are put into the awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jignasha. Athato Brahma Jignasha. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the Absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering or where they come from and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna.
So basic point to understand is that the role of suffering in this world, adversity in this world, is to awaken us to this question. Prabhupada is saying one should be awakened to this question. Why am I suffering in this world? What is the solution to all this suffering? Why am I being put into this awkward position? Because this is not natural for us. So Jiva immediately realized that this is not right. Something is not right. I'm not supposed to be here. So one is supposed to have that feeling, that question awakened in one's mind, and that is called Brahma Jigyasa. This is the first Brahma Sutra, first Vedanta Sutra, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. That in the very beginning there was this curiosity about Brahman, about spiritual realm. So this should be the reason to read Bhagavad Gita. Self-realization should be the reason to read Bhagavad Gita. So not to just um, for learning Sanskrit, for learning verses, for just show off. Though that's not the reason. Bhagavad Gita is being learned for the purpose of understanding your identity, your purpose here. Why did I come here? Where did I come from? Where do I go next? How do I go there? What is my source? What is my origin? Right? What is my connection with that supreme source? All those are the right questions to ask. So that person is a proper student of Bhagavad Gita. Let's keep reading more. Can somebody read next two paragraphs?
I can keep reading, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Lord Krishna descends specifically to re-establish real purpose of life. When man forgets that purpose, even then, out of many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position, and for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are swallowed by the tigress of nuisance, but the Lord is very merciful upon the
Nations means
nations.
Hmm.
But the Lord is okay. But the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjun his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjun was above all ignorance. But Arjun was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human being and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. Hare Krishna.
Just remember that Arjun is an eternal servant of the Lord, eternal friend of Lord. but he's being used here as somebody who will interview Krishna on the actual problems of life and how to find those solutions and all these questions of self-realization. So he will pose those questions to Krishna basically on our behalf, and Krishna will answer to him. It's like an interviewer and interviewee. So Arjun is interviewing Krishna, and it looks like Arjun is in anxiety. He's confused. He's bewildered. He's lost his mind, his intelligence, and all this. But actually, Arjun is above all ignorance. In eternal situation, eternal position, a devotee like that does not never becomes ignorant. But this is a plan, an arrangement made by Krishna so that we can hear this Bhagavad Gita through the as a great conversation between devotee and Lord for the benefit of future generations. So Arjun is asking these questions on our behalf to Krishna, and Krishna is speaking it for the benefit of whole future generations to come. Let's keep reading. This is very important. Now Prabhupada will start talking about the 5 main topics of Bhagavad Gita. Everyone should know these 5 main topics. If somebody asks you, because you are studying Bhagavad Gita, you are the students of Bhagavad Gita. If somebody ever asks you what does Bhagavad Gita contain, this is the easiest way to answer that Bhagavad Gita contains or talks about these 5 main topics. It is divided into these 5 main topics. That way you don't have to really, because Bhagavad Gita is such an extensive knowledge, comprehensive knowledge, that sometimes we can be lost in how to explain this knowledge to somebody in a nutshell. So at least you can talk about these 5 main topics. Everyone should know these by heart. Can someone read these?
Mataji, I can read.
Yes, Mataji.
The subject of Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of living entities, jivas. There is Ishvara, which means the controller, and then they are jivas, the living entities which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with Ishwar, the supreme controller, and the jivas, the controlled living entities.
Mataji, just pause here for a second. So 2 topics are these, okay? The Ishvara, which is Bhagwan or supreme controller, and Jiva, which is a living entity or soul, which is controlled by the Lord, or which is basically, you can say, part and parcel of the Lord, a small spiritual spark of the absolute whole. And Ishvara or Bhagwan is the complete whole, the absolute truth. And Jiva is a small spiritual spark, small, qualitatively same as Supreme Lord, made of Sat Chit Anand, just like Supreme Lord, but quantitatively very, very small. So qualities are same, but quantity is very, very minute. And Prabhupada is saying that Jiva is controlled, is not independent, whereas Ishwar is an independent entity. Okay, please, yes, keep reading, Madhavi.
Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is, what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of living entities are.
So these are the other 3 topics. So Ishwar, Jiva, which means the Bhagwan and living entity. Then Prakriti, which is material nature, Kal or time, and Karma or activity. So these are the 5 topics: Bhagwan, Jiva, Prakriti, Kal, and Karma. Okay. Let's keep reading.
Out of these 5 basic subject matters in Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme God, or Krishna, or Brahman, or the Supreme Controller, or Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs of material nature, as will be explained in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. He is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Maya
Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam.
This material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, We should know that behind this cosmic manifestation, there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or another animal pulling it. But a sane person knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the driver under whose direction everything is working. Now the jivas or the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcels. A particle of gold is also a gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty, and similarly, we living entities being part and parcel of the supreme controller, Ishvara or Bhagwan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quantity because we are minute Ishwaras, subordinate Ishwaras. We are trying to control nature as presently we are trying to control space or planets. And this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller, and this is explained in Bhagavad Gita.
So I think this is straightforward. Prakriti. So you understand that Supreme Bhagwan or Ishwar is the Supreme Lord, right? Krishna. The Jiva is the part and parcel of the Lord, which means the soul that we are. And we are the superior energy of the Lord. We are qualitatively same as Lord, but in quantity we are very small. So it's compared like to a drop of the ocean. So if Bhagwan is ocean, we are just a drop of the ocean. But drop is also salty, just like the ocean is. So the quality is same, but quantity is very small. Then Prakriti, which is Mother Nature, material nature, is made of matter and it is completely dependent on Supreme Lord. So it is completely under the direction of the Supreme Lord. He has fit some software in the material nature by which, it automatically manifests and unmanifests after a certain time. So it goes through these, under the time factor, it goes through the 4 yugas, and then so after so many yugas, it annihilates and uh, disintegrates completely and then manifests again after a certain time. And there are several laws fit by Krishna for the smooth running of this material nature. And he exerts those laws through various Devi Devtas, demigods, like that. So that's the nature of the Prakriti. It's made of matter. It's the inferior energy of the Lord, whereas Jiva is the superior energy of the Lord. And remember that in material nature, Kal Chakra or time factor, the Kal time factor is operating, because of which there is changes in yugas, there is annihilation and manifestation, there is cycle of birth and death going on under the Kal Chakra. And in this material nature, the jivas are performing various actions, activities, which is called karma. So these are the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. Let's read this next paragraph. We'll read maybe a couple more paragraphs and then stop. By 10:15, we'll stop.
I can read, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
What is material nature? This is also explained in the Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. अपर्याप्तम इतस्त्व अन्यम प्रकृतिम विद्धि में परम जीवभूतम. This material nature is my inferior prakriti, but beyond this is another prakriti, jiva bhutam, the living entities.
Mataji, just a couple points here. So Prakriti, basically Prabhupada is saying it's the energy of the Lord. It can be inferior or superior energy. So Bhagwan is energetic or Purusha, and so he's the controller or the source of all energies. And energies are subordinate to the to the energetic. So there are inferior energy, which is the matter, like our body and this material world, that is the material nature, inferior energy of the Lord, and Jiva is the superior energy of the Lord. But both are subordinate to the Lord. Both are under the control of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada will say this in coming paragraphs. The only difference is that living entity, being the superior energy of the Lord, is conscious. It is a conscious entity. It is a servant of the Lord, right? Whereas the world is basically dead matter. It is inferior energy of the Lord. It is just matter. There is no consciousness in it unless the living entities or Supreme Lord enters inside it. So this is the difference between the para prakriti or the superior energy and the apara prakriti, the inferior energy of the Lord. Para is superior, which means jiva, and apara is inferior energy, which is the material nature. Both are energies, or Prabhupada is using the word prakriti. Both are prakriti of the Lord. Let's read more. Mataji, you want to keep reading?
Yes, Mataji. Sorry, I was on mute. Material nature itself is constituted by three qualities: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes, there is eternal time, and by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then, say I have lost all my money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work or we suffer the results. This is called karma.
So just a couple, just one point here. So material nature, how does material nature keeps the jiva? So jiva is superior energy and material nature is inferior energy. So it is very bewildering that superior energy is getting trapped in this material nature. So how does it get trapped? So Prabhupada is mentioning there are two things that trap us here. One is the three modes of material nature, the three gunas, right? Satoguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So these gunas, which is a quality of material nature, these three gunas trap us here. And the other is the eternal time. So we get stuck in the Kal Chakra, or the time factor, but in the cycle of birth and death. So we keep rotating through different species, through different bodies, through different planets of the material world, and during various yugas, various prakriti gets annihilated and manifested, and we also keep entering into it over and over again. So in this way, we get stuck in the Kal Chakra, and we get stuck by these three modes. And because of these bondages within the mother nature, we are stuck here. And what do we do here? The activities that we perform by the combination of these factors is called karma. The activities that we perform here is called karma. I want to highlight for all of you. I know that Prabhupada, we have not come to that concept of free will. Prabhupada is saying that we are under Krishna's control, but Prabhupada will talk about it, that we do have this minute independence, this free will, right? As conscious living entities, sentient beings, we do have some free will. And that free will we exert in the form of karma. So our activities are completely under our control. What we do today, what we decide to do today or not do today, good or bad action, is in our control. And based on that karma, whatever action we perform, we get reaction because it was our choice to perform that action. So that's how, so this is called karma. This activity is actually in our control, and we enjoy or suffer the results by the law of karma. So, okay, let's read more. We'll probably read this one paragraph and then stop.
Shall I continue, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji.
Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, eternal time, and Karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, The material nature and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false, but according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not true. This is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real but temporary. It is likened unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season, which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which were nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord, although they are not separated but eternally related. So, the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial. But we can change the results of our karma or our activity, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shall we stop for today? It's very long, so I think. But as you see, Prabhupada has given a lot of the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita here in a concise way. So it's interesting to read before we actually get into Bhagavad Gita itself. If you're okay, we'll stop for today. Many devotees have not joined. I think they're out of town and unavailable today. So we'll just continue next time. Any questions or reflections, realizations from what we have read so far? So yeah, please read on your own also. And this is the Bhagavad Gita that we are reading, Bhagavad Gita as it is. If anyone doesn't have it, please let us know. We'll get it for you. But we'll continue the reading next time. If it's okay, we can chant one round of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra today. As it is Ekadashi, we should be chanting more and doing more and more spiritual activities.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much for the call, Mataji. Very nice.
Yeah, it'll take a couple more times to finish introduction. I thought we would probably finish, but I don't want to rush it. It's very important. And if anybody has any questions, let me know. But we'll get all our answers as we keep reading. Just hang on, just stay with the process. Prabhupada recommends that if we just stay with the process, everything will reveal to time. Just be patient, be determined. Okay, thank you everyone. Mancha kaltarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha gurve gaurachandraya radhikaya tudale krishnaya krishna bhaktaya tadbhaktaya namo namaha.